What's up, everybody? Vince, and today I'm just going to give some final thoughts on the UFC Freedom 250 card that's going on later today, and just a few final breakdowns of some of the fights, and just clear up any thoughts that I haven't brought up before in some of the other videos. So starting with the first fight on the main card, we have Diego Lopez and Steve Garcia. Now, despite Steve this being his first fight against a top 5 opponent, based on how some of his other fights have looked, especially against Calvin Kattar, there actually is a chance that he could have a great performance here and possibly win. With Lopez, though, he's coming in with a wealth of experience, especially those 2 performances against Volkanovski. And when a young fighter takes those opportunities, fights for the title twice like that in only the span of a year, that kind of experience is priceless, and I do think it'll play a factor in his performance in this fight. Especially in the second Volkanovski fight, though I don't think it was the best game plan to have. I do think him taking some time, being a little bit less aggressive, a bit more methodical going into that matchup, even though I don't think it really helped him in the second Volkanovski fight, I do think that it's an asset to his game that will help him now and in the future. So I would definitely look for Diego to kind of outpoint Steve here, use his experience. Very powerful guy in this division. Diego could arguably fight at lightweight someday. And even though I do think this could potentially be a toss-up matchup, I think the experience will favor Lopez here. Now, moving up the card, we also have Bo Nickal versus Kyle Daukaus. And this is also a very intriguing matchup in that middleweight division, and I think whoever wins this fight will find themselves in the top 15. Now for Kyle, he might be being overlooked a little bit in this fight, just considering some of Bo's accolades going into this, and it's well-deserved, especially given his last performance against Rodolfo Vieira, where he got that left head kick knockout. That was sensational. But if you look at Kyle's past 2 fights in his comeback to the UFC, this guy has looked drastically different than he did in his first stint in the UFC. And that straight left hand that he possesses is something else, man. Especially the way he was able to put Michel Pereira out in only in the 40s of seconds, I believe. This is definitely not a guy to be overlooked in this fight. And I think that if Kyle could avoid the takedowns, pressure like he did so well in his past 2 fights, I do think that Kyle could pull out ahead here using his striking and his speed, especially if he could land that straight left hand. For Bo, it's going to be whether or not Bo could get this fight to the ground, and it's really going to be dependent on where Kyle's wrestling is going into this fight. And I don't know if Kyle has fought this level of wrestler before in his career. So if Bo could get to the clinch, get some takedowns going, especially early in the fight, then I do think Bo has a good chance of winning here as well. And with a young guy like Bo, it's always hard to tell and judge how he's going to do based on his previous performances, because these young guys are always getting better, especially with experience, and the more training these guys get, they can look drastically different than they did the previous time they fought. But I do think this could potentially be a close fight, and I think either guy has a really good chance of winning here. This is definitely a fight where I wouldn't put too much weight into whether or not one guy is going to win or another. I think this is a pick-'em fight, and definitely one that could potentially be a fight of the night as well. Now, moving up the card, we also have Josh Hokett versus Derek Lewis. Now, with Josh's style, I do think we could see a similar style to how he fought Curtis Blaydes. As crazy as that sounds, I don't think that Josh will be the type of fighter to really deviate from his game too much. I think he's very confident. But I do think there are certain things, especially defensively, that he'll be a little bit more responsible with in this matchup as opposed to the Curtis Blaydes fight. I do think you'll see Josh maybe take a little bit more time before pressuring Derek so much. And I think defensively, you'll see him keeping his hands up more than he did in the Curtis fight. And regardless of all of that, I think that he's going to need the same amount of pressure that he had before, maybe a little bit more responsibly, though, than the Curtis fight. And I do think that with all the pressure, especially if he uses some takedown attempts, which I do think we'll see from him in this fight, a lot of clinch work as well, I do think that Josh could break down Derek in this fight and possibly get a finish in either the end of round 1 or round 2 or 3. I think that based on other matchups that Derek has had against guys like Sergey Pavlovich and Tai Tuivasa a few years ago, I think that if someone could pressure Derek, crowd the power a little bit, not give him the amount of distance that he needs to create those powerful shots, not shoot in for takedowns when it's unwarranted, because obviously that uppercut is vicious. We saw it against Curtis Blades. I think that if Josh could just kind of smother him early on, get him tired, get him overreacting to some of the combinations, I do think that Josh will be able to capitalize on that like Sergey has in the past and potentially overwhelm Derek on his way to a TKO win. Now, at the same time, for Derek, even though this is the style that Josh fights and he's very successful with it, this is a style that plays directly into Derek's hands as well. Anytime that you're pressuring a guy like Derek Lewis that heavily, you are giving him his opportunities to land his power. And in particular, this past fight with Waldo Cortez Acosta, Waldo was successful also because of the fact that he didn't press Derek very hard. He's a little bit more methodical and takes his time. And in this matchup, if Josh does fight as aggressively as he did last time, you could see this play into the hands of Derek, and you could see him potentially catch Josh coming in or time a punch and just knock Josh out. I think there's a good chance that could happen as well. And even though this is the best style, at least based on previous performances for Josh to use against Derek, it does have its own risks. So, though I would favor Josh to kind of pull ahead here in this fight, just keep in mind that Derek can potentially land a big shot here, especially with the clash of styles. And we're going to see this is going to be a great one as well. Moving up the card, we also have Sean O'Malley and Aiemann Zahabi. I think there's a good chance you'll see a vintage Sean O'Malley performance here, where he keeps range, switching stances from orthodox to southpaw, landing 1-2s, front kicks up the middle, leg kicks, circling to the outside of his opponent's lead foot. I think you'll see that all here, and I think that Aiemann will be game. I think that he'll try to create some exchanges, but I think ultimately Sean's going to get the better of him. And when it comes to the grappling, though Aiemann does have a grappling base and does go to it a lot, based on the way Aldo was able to deal with some of the takedowns early in the fight, I think that Sean O'Malley, especially fighting a good wrestler like Song Yadong and fighting a tremendous wrestler, arguably the best in the division, probably tied with Umar Merab Dvalishvili, I think that experience will allow him to kind of stuff the takedowns, stay on the outside, and just pick Aiemann apart. But there's also a chance, because Aimann's had a lot of surprise wins as well recently and has been the underdog in some of his past few fights. So you could see Aiemann just kind of gut it out and eventually maybe drag Sean into a war and get a win there. But I would favor Sean to kind of have a vintage performance here. And I also don't want to forget to mention that Mauricio Rufy versus Michael Chandler is on this card as well. And with this matchup, I think that you'll see Rufy kind of keep Chandler on the outside, land his 1-2. He has his straight right hand is amazing. He landed it very effectively against Rafael Fiziev, and I think you'll see it play a prominent factor in this fight as well, especially with some of his unorthodox kicks. I think that you'll see Rufy keep this fight on the outside and be very successful here. Now with Michael Chandler, if Chandler was looking to take this fight to the ground, I would favor him a little bit more. But more recently, especially given where this fight is and how the crowd's going to be, I think you'll see Chandler play into the crowd and try to get another fight of the night worthy performance here. And I do think that that'll play into Rufy's favor. I think that if Chandler was looking for the takedowns, getting in on his hips, going for double legs, single legs, keeping him against the fence a little bit, wearing him down, I do think that Chandler would have a good chance here, but I don't see Chandler trying to use his wrestling. If this fight does stay on the feet, I think that Chandler will be methodical early in the fight, similar to how he was in the second Charles Oliveira fight. But I think that as the punches start to fly and as he gets caught, you'll start to see that vintage Michael Chandler come out where he starts to brawl a little bit. And I do think that Rufi is the cleaner striker here, especially given how Paddy Pimblett was able to outstrike Michael Chandler. I think that Rufi is a little bit better than Paddy, especially when it comes to certain techniques like the timing, his speed. And I do think that Rufi will pull out ahead here. Now moving up to the main event and co-main event, I don't want to kind of repeat myself too much on some of the points I made in the previous videos, but I just want to give some final thoughts and a final breakdown on these fights. Now for Alex Pereira and Ciryl Gane, I think that Ciryl Gane's kickboxing is amazing, but it doesn't always translate to his boxing skills. In particular, if you rewatch the Tai Tuivasa fight from a few years ago, when he had Tai hurt in the second and third round, it took him a while to get Tai out of there. And in particular, when he did try to press him a little bit with the boxing, with the hands, he was missing a lot and throwing strikes that are uncharacteristic of such a clean striker like himself. He was throwing a lot of overhand rights, a lot of winging left hooks, and a lot of those shots were missing against Tai Tuivasa, even though Tai was hurt. So I think when it comes to the boxing on its own and when the fight gets into close range, I think Pereira has a huge advantage here, especially with how crisp his combinations are, especially when he has guys hurt. Like if anybody remembers the sequence that finished Khalil Roundtree Jr., just amazing striking. As everybody knows, he's very experienced in this department as well. And I think if this fight could stay in the close range, I would favor Pereira heavily here, especially given the fact that Ciryl is a southpaw who likes to jab a lot on that front hand. I think that you could see Pereira time a lot of left hooks here, just given the stance difference and the difference of styles. I think that if Ciryl can keep this on the outside, he will better his chances for sure. And if he could keep it on the outside for a remainder of this fight, I do think that he also has a good chance to win, especially as this fight gets later. So for Ciryl, he has those lead leg kicks. He will throw a lot of front kicks, and his front kick is very unorthodox. He kind of starts it from the midline and then wraps it around and then directs it straight into his opponent's midsection. And it's very hard to read because it seems like in Nasruddin Imavov, his teammate does this as well, where it almost looks like it's just a feeler kick to kind of measure range, but then he'll actually at the last second just dig into his opponent's body with the teep. It's very hard to read and catches a lot of guys off guard. I think he's going to need that in this fight, especially the more time he could spend having his lead leg off the ground and away from Pereira's leg kicks, the better. And I think that that's another thing he has to be mindful of. Ciryl stays very light on his feet, and he's good at darting in and out, and I think that will help him here to kind of nullify some of those calf kicks early in the fight. Now, with Ciryl, I think that you will see him kind of pressure to the cage a lot in this fight, just based on Pereira's style. And I do think that Pereira is going to look to kind of pressure him as much as he can, especially early in this fight. And I do think that he'll find a lot of success doing that. Now for Ciryl, when he does find himself in that situation, he's going to have to really do his best to avoid boxing exchanges too much and just do what he does best, which is landing single strikes, especially his punches. I do think there's an opportunity for him to land the straight left and off of his left hand as well. Pereira's been caught with the left hand a lot before, the Ankalaev fight, the Khalil Roundtree Jr. fight. So I do think that Ciryl has to try to focus on that aspect of boxing in this fight. And if Pereira can pressure Ciryl, force him to kind of fight in close range, and then maybe even slow Gane's movement down with those lower leg kicks, I do think that this will be a very difficult matchup for Ciryl to get past, just based on the difference in boxing skills. But if Gane could keep it on the outside, just kind of keep peppering away at Pereira with front kicks to the body, leg kicks, the occasional 1-2, straight left hand, right down the middle, I do think that there's avenues for Gane to win as well. This could potentially be a close fight, and Gane is being overlooked a little. And even though Pereira has a very good chance of becoming the first three-division champ here, you can't overlook Gane and his skill set as well. And I doubt that Pereira's himself and his camp is doing that. I'm sure they're taking this matchup very seriously. Ciryl Gane has been a #1 contender in this division for 5 years at this point. And I think this is going to be a very good fight. Now, moving up to the main event, we have Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. Now, in the previous video, we already talked about some of Justin's avenues to victory. But for Topuria, even though he's heavily favored and everybody loves to see the underdog come out on top, I do think that Topuria is favored for a very good reason. He's passed all the tests. He's defended his title at featherweight, and he knocked out Charles Oliveira when no one has been able to finish Charles like that recently. But despite all of that, this could potentially be another close fight, especially if Justin fights the way he did in the second Rafael Fiziev fight. And I do think that there's certain strikes that each of these guys can look for to pull out ahead here. Now for Ilia, it's going to be a matter of him kind of keeping composed and slowly chipping away like he usually does. And a lot of times with undefeated fighters, they don't face a lot of adversity. But if you look at some of Ilia's past performances, he has faced that adversity, and he's dealt with it well. In the Volkanovski fight, it took time for him to find that last combination to put Volkanovski out. He did take some shots to the legs. He did get jabbed a little bit in the first round, but he dealt with it well. He's not a guy that will back down when he's facing some pressure and adversity. Look at the Jai Herbert fight. So I think for Ilia, the keys to victory is just going to be keeping Justin on the back foot, pressuring him, and doing it reasonably. He should use his own right leg kicks that he lands very well. He landed it very effectively against Alexander Volkanovski, and I do think it'll favor him here as well. A lot of times with these fighters that have great leg kicks, we don't only see them get countered with their opponent's leg kicks. So I think it's going to be important for Ilia, especially when Justin tries to step in or plant, to kind of throw his own calf kicks as well. And other than that, it's going to be a matter of Ilia pressuring Justin, getting him close to the cage, forcing a reaction out of Justin, maybe forcing him into an exchange, and then capitalizing on it. And I think if he can do that, he will land effective strikes. If you look at the second Fiziev fight, after Fiziev was finished throwing a right kick, you could kind of see that Justin was thinking about countering, and in that split second that he was thinking about countering, he actually got hit with an overhand right, and his lead hand dropped right away and caused him to get hurt by that shot. If you look at the Tony Ferguson fight, it was in the middle of an exchange in the second round where Tony was able to land that uppercut and dropped Gaethje and almost finish him at the end of that round. And there's a lot of opportunities to kind of take Justin out of his game in these matchups. And that's ultimately going to be the key for Ilia here. It's going to be getting Justin pressured, forcing Justin to exchange, and then capitalizing on it with either his right uppercut. He has amazing combinations when he goes to the body with his hooks and then comes back upstairs with a left or a right hook. There's definitely opportunities and openings for Ilia to land those strikes. As we saw, Patty was able to land some boxing combinations on Justin as well. Other than that, I do think that if this fight goes to the ground, in the scenario that Ilia hurts Justin and forces a wrestling exchange, I do think that there's opportunities for Ilia to win by submission here, but only in the event that Justin is hurt and distracted by getting rocked on the feet. And in the past, we saw that in the Charles Oliveira fight. But other than that, I don't really see either of these guys going into the wrestling too much. Now for Justin, even though I don't believe he will, I do think it could serve him well to get some takedown attempts in there, some clinch attempts to kind of slow this fight down early. Ilia, when he fought Josh Emmett, he didn't really show any signs of slowing down late in the fight, despite all the combinations he landed and how many times he had Josh almost out. So I don't really know if Ilia has a cardio weakness there per se. But for Justin, regardless, I do think if he could tire Ilia out early, maybe tie up a little bit, slow this fight down early in the fight, I think it can only help him rather than hinder his own performance. Now, for Justin, he does have great footwork when he uses it. He does do a great job of going in and out when he decides to. And we really saw that in the Tony Ferguson fight and the second Fiziev fight. And with his head kicks, this is going to be another key to victory for Justin. His close range head kicks, especially off the clinch, I think are going to serve him very well here, as we have seen Ilya get caught with head kicks in the past in close range when he's not expecting it, and Justin does that better than anybody. For Justin, he should also look for his own leg kicks. I think especially if Ilya starts to press him and start to plant and try to land his own combinations, Justin could possibly time him with some leg kicks there. Now, other than the leg kicks, Justin also has a great right uppercut. He lands it very effectively, and I do think that when Ilya's covering and rolling, trying to get inside, I do think that there's opportunities there for Justin to land the right uppercut. I think that if one guy is going to pressure, Justin did say he wanted to move forward in this fight. I don't know if that's going to be how it plays out, though. I think if one guy is going to be pressuring here, it will be Ilia Topuria, and Justin could have opportunities to take advantage of those opportunities when Ilya is pressing him. But ultimately, it's going to be on Justin to use his lateral movement, use his leg kicks, try to land 1 to 2 punch combinations, especially his uppercut left hook combination. He lands it very effectively. It's very fast. And at the end of the day, just kind of slow the fight down early, get this fight into the later rounds, and see what he could do from there. For Ilya, as I stated before, he has to just plod forward like he does best, kind of deal with some of the shots that he'll take when trying to press forward like he has in his previous fights. Ultimately, just bide his time and look for that opening like he does best. It's very fast for this division especially, and if he can get Justin cornered against a cage or force Justin to exchange, you will see Ilya get a win by knockout here. But if you see Justin do what he did best in previous performances where he wasn't supposed to win, like the Tony Ferguson fight, if you see him stick to the game plan, I do think that you could see Justin possibly get a decision win here as well. But yeah, this could potentially be a close fight. But yeah, those are just some of my final thoughts on these matchups. And let me know what you think of these fights and which one you're looking forward to the most. What did you think of some of these breakdowns of each fight? And ultimately, if you did like the video, leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. And until next time, see you later.